call this meeting of the Northeast Independent School District to order. Let the record show that a quorum of board members is present, that this meeting has been duly called, and that notice of this meeting has been posted in accordance with the Texas Open Meetings Act. The time is 5:30. Item 2, public hearing to discuss 2020-2021 budget and proposed tax rate. A, possible action regarding 2020-2021 budget adoption. Mr. Villarreal, but I think we had someone sign up to speak. So hold on just a minute. Okay. Okay, thank you. We did. We had someone sign up to speak to the budget, so do you want to call them, Ms. Huey?
Patsy Esterline.
Madam President, can I wait until after the presentation?
Yes. Okay. All right, Mr. Villarreal.
Yes, Madam President, members of the board, Dr. Mike, executive staff, and guests. I want to thank you for the last 3 sessions we've had talking about our budget. It's been a fun budget to put together with all the unknowns, and but we always try to do our best and work hard at it. So tonight we bring you the proposed budget, and we'll talk about a tax rate, but we won't be adopting a tax rate till September. So with that, I'll turn it over to Brian Moore, Executive Director of Accounting and Finance.
Okay.
Thank you, Dan. Madam President, members of the board, Dr. Micah, executive staff, guests. We are going to have a very brief discussion tonight. I mean, we've pretty much killed this thing to death over the last 3 Mondays.
No.
Yeah, really, we have. So this is really just going to be a quick synopsis of what we've covered this last month. Just to let you know, we did everything by the book this year. We're going to adopt it by June 30th. We are giving you the right funds to adopt. We put everything in the newspaper and our website. And as Dan said, action or decisions on tax rate is a September item. If you are a August 31 year end and you do your budget real late, you can adopt them both at the same meeting, but for a June 30 district, you don't.
But we always do it by the book, just to clarify.
Of course we do. I like how he said that.
Okay, so I'm going to do the second item first. We're going to just quickly breeze through the proposed tax rates that were in the public notice. As we talked about before, under House Bill 3, each district in the state was going to get a unique compressed tax rate from TEA. That's going to be your basis, your starting point for your M&O tax rate. We won't be assigned this rate till probably in August, possibly late July. Districts who have a fiscal year of ours were advised that in their public notice to use the state's maximum compressed tax rate. That's the highest that our compressed rate can be. Right now, our compressed rate is 93 cents, and we have 4 discretionary pennies above that, 4 golden pennies up to 97. That is going to be pushed down because property values are going up. So the publication assigns the maximum rate that the board can adopt without having to go back with another public hearing and another public notice. For 2021, believe it or not, we are within 3/100ths of a penny of that state maximum compressed rate. So what was published in the newspaper is very, very close to what we believe is going to be the actual. The rate published on June 11th included 5 pennies above compressed, 5 golden pennies, so that if you get to the point in September where you decided that you wanted to levy it, we don't have to go back out, call a second public hearing, and pay the money to do a second notice in the newspaper. And the interest and sinking fund rate is that what we're proposing is 30.5 cents. That's a 1.5 penny reduction from last year. Just to let you know that since 2015, if you in September, if you adopt the 30.5 cents on the INS side, that will be a reduction of over 9.5 cents since 2015. So what does this look like to what we call the average taxpayer? So the appraisal district provides us the average market value and taxable value of a home within Northeast. So you can see that the average market value and taxable value for a home within Northeast are both going up close to $13,000. The maintenance and operations tax rate is going from 97 cents to just under 97 cents this year, or next year. This is what was published. I'm going to show you another version without the fifth penny. INS tax rate going down $0.015. So even though we're bringing down the tax rate, if you look at the taxes, though, on the average home, the increase to their property value more than offsets the reduction in the rate. So in this scenario, the average homeowner will pay $117 more in taxes next year than they will this year. It's a misnomer that the legislature put in this ever-changing compressed tax rate to lower taxes. What it did was slowed the rate of growth on taxes. And we don't control the property values. That's done at the appraisal district. So, I mean, if the values go up 8%, but our revenue is capped at growth of 2.5%, it's not capped at, it's not, we're going to keep setting a lower and lower rate to reduce taxes. It's simply to cap growth. So if we get to September and we don't have the fifth golden penny, the average, the average home is still going to go up in value $13,000. We would be applying 1 penny less in rate. So the increase on the average homeowner would only be $93. So it's a $24 difference to the average homeowner with and without. And if there's no questions on the tax rate portion, I'm going to turn the bulk of the meeting over to Susie Blackhorn, Director of Budgets and Financial Analysis.
Did anybody have any questions about that for Brian? Okay,
All right,
thank you.
thank you.
Thank you. Good evening, Madam President, members of the board, Dr. Micah, executive staff, and guests. Tonight, I'd like to first say thank you for showing up. It's greatly appreciated.
Anything for you, Susie.
Can I get that in right?
Yeah.
Let's first go over a refresher here on things that are not included in tonight's budget. A retention. That's a decision that we can wait until September to make, once we know more information about how funding's going to work with remote learning next year, how many students come in, and what that tax rate ends up being. So the fifth penny also. We talked some last week about summer programs. So in the summer of 2021, we can take advantage of the additional school days incentive. So those program costs and revenue are not included in this budget, as we're just in the planning phases. And as much as we've talked about it, there's $10.5 million worth of normal operating expenditures that will not be in next year's budget for the general fund. They will be in a federal budget for the CARES Act. And a little later tonight, we'll bring you a final budget amendment for 1920. And when we do that, we'll take out $10.5 million worth of revenue from 1920 and put it in that federal CARES Act. And when it's all said and done, that'll wash itself out in the federal fund. And the general fund to end up at the end of 21 where it would have had none of that happened. But we're going to lose $10.5 million in revenue from general fund to federal in 1920 and $10.5 in expenditures in 2021. Okay. We also aren't including at this time coronavirus relief fund reimbursements, so we're still in the research, estimating, planning phase for that. And anything that comes up with the retention and other things, we will bring you budget amendments as necessary. So expect to see me again. Yes.
Quick question. The coronavirus relief fund, remind me of the amount that was equivalent to that we were looking at.
We actually don't have great estimates at this time.
Okay.
There's a short window where expenditures we made related to the coronavirus can get reimbursed up to 75%.
Okay, maybe that's what I'm thinking of, that number.
Yeah.
Okay.
There's a
So the formula is based on $250 per student who was noted as compensatory ed, if we aren't going to get, I mean, we're not going to get nearly
Sure.
that much.
Sure.
So it's just going to be 75% of whatever we document between whatever date that was in March that started through May 20th, 75%. But if we had millions and millions and millions of dollars of things that get reimbursed, it would be up to, I mean, that was close to like 9 million, and we're not going to get that much.
Right, okay, I think it was a 75% is what I
Right.
was thinking of. from
It'll
the
be more of a
previous-
factor of what we spent in that window
Right.
than the cap that they've mapped for us, because we didn't spend at that level.
Okay, thank you.
For the revenue budget, 2021, general fund, 553 million. 74% roughly of that will come from local property taxes, with 17% coming from the state's foundation school program. If we look at this graphically, you can get a feel for the history of how much of our revenue has come from property taxes versus how much has come from the state. The blue bar is what is coming from our taxpayers, and the gray bar is coming from the state's school foundation program. And as you can see, back in 11, 12, we were at 58% with the property taxes and 35% for the state. And that just, the state's piece just kept shrinking and shrinking and shrinking. And then last year with HB3, it changed directions just a little bit. And now this year we'll move back down a little bit as property tax values have grown. Moving on to the expenditure budget. Last week we showed you in summary this level of the budget by function. Well, this is the detail. It has every function on the next 3 slides. There's so many, they don't fit on one slide. TEA requires that every transaction get coded by a function code, and that you adopt the budget by function code. And they defined a function code as a general operational area. So this is just 2 of the 20 digits that TEA requires us to use to code our transactions. But as you can see, 65% of our budget is in instruction and instruction-related costs. So this is for things, classroom teachers, things in the classroom, in the library, and staff development. Things that go directly into our instruction. 7.8% is for instruction and school leadership, so your campus administration would fall there. Our student support services make up over 10% of the budget, the largest being guidance, counseling, and evaluation services, and transportation. General administration only makes up 2.6% of our budget. Non-student support expenditures are 68 million, or 12%, the largest being maintenance. And the rest of the budget is just left of 1%, bringing us to a total of $564 million. The School Nutrition Services Fund has a revenue budget of just over $35 million. Most of that coming from federal reimbursements of 68%. Here are the meal prices. We talked about this some last week. We are required to stay in line with federal regulations, so sometimes we have to increase meal prices. So adult meals next year, we're estimating we'll need to increase lunch from $3.85 to $4, and breakfast from $2.25 to $2.30. And again, we're required to. These are estimates at this point in time until all the numbers come in. Again, being June 30, we don't have all the pieces at this point in time, but this is a pretty close estimate. For the expenditure side for school nutrition services, a $36 million budget, most of that falling in the food service functional code. All right, on to debt service. The revenue budget is $136 million, 95% coming from local property taxes. And all the expenditures in the debt service fund fall into the debt service functional code, $126 million. As always, it's important to point out that the fund balance of the debt service fund will have enough funds in it at the end of June 30, 2021 to make that very large August debt service payment of $62 million. And as you can see here, including the 2027 set aside for the qualified school construction principal payment that we'll have to make in 2027, and some set-asides for refundings that we'll do in next summer for 2021. We'll still have 48 million estimated in fund balance. Gives us plenty of room. I have one slide after this, but do y'all have any questions on any funds or anything at this point in time? All right, well then I have one last slide. We had a exciting year, and a lot of people worked very hard, and I want to thank them. Normally they're here, and normally we make them stand up. Unfortunately, that's not possible, but I've got to say, when we closed, everyone picked up their computer and went home, and they didn't miss a beat. And I'm incredibly proud this year that they did that. They even shortened our timelines. We chose to do that to give campuses more time to work on remote learning. And so the finance and other departments working on the budget had less time to process stuff that they normally have longer for, and they had more stress while doing so. And I really feel like they did a great job for us to be able to put together a budget on a reasonable time frame for you. So I just want to thank them and let them know how much it's appreciated. And it's really a privilege to work with such dedicated people. And I just wanted you to know that.
I just wanted to point out one thing real quick. In our budget is the health services fund, where the district is contributing and no increases to the employees. So I know we talked about that last week, but I just wanted to just bring that back up.
So no increases.
Yes, ma'am.
You-
No,
So
the
we're
district is
talking about
covering
So
For health insurance.
the premium increases.
We're not going to raise premiums next year.
Great. That's awesome.
Okay.
Did anybody have any questions?
I don't necessarily have a question, but I have a comment. And I just thank you for putting those names up there. And Dr.
Yes.
Micah and executive staff
Yes.
and your team. It's very evident that you put a lot of hours into trying to create a budget where we're not sure where our funds are coming from. There are a lot of uncharted waters. And once again, here we are pioneering through. And I just wanted to thank you. And, I hope that our community is watching and has been listening. And, this is not our first time to do this, some of us. And so we are familiar with what's happening in the process. And I hope that this time of pandemic, where people are watching now more than before, that they continue to be involved and continue to know what is behind putting a school budget together. We are able to make choices and decisions as a group together, come together, knowing what's best for our district and for the kids and for the staff in the community because of the work that they do. It doesn't just happen overnight. We don't just get a packet and say yes. We have a lot of research that comes into this, and if you've watched, we ask questions because we want to know. We have people to answer to. So thank you for all of your work, and I just am so proud to be part of this district.
Awesome. Yes.
Yeah, I don't really have too much different to add. It is kudos to y'all. I know there's a lot that does go into this, and there's a lot of unknowns still. So you guys, I think, do a great job given how many variables that you don't have, that you've got to put this together. And like Ms. Winkley said, you always position us to do the best we can. And I think that what I'd like to also reiterate is, the fact that, like Mr. Moy said, I believe it was 9.5 cents since 2015. And it's not like we've been in times of plenty. I mean, we're not, one of these fast-growing districts where, the money's just rolling in. And so you guys have really, really made the dollars stretch where you could. Manage your portfolios prudently, more than prudently. You've managed them, magnificently to be able to do this. You've become innovative, thought outside the box, all while maintaining safety, right? Because that's your mandate. But just congratulations to you all for what you've done to prepare us, and you do that well.
I like to piggyback off of both of those comments as well, just to say that I really appreciate our previous budget sessions where we've had a lot of different scenarios. And that really helps when, we get the bottom line so that people don't think, oh, well, we're just rubber stamping something. But we've gone through a lot of, okay, this is what we could do, or, what if we did this? And especially, this has been the trend. This is what we've been able to do in the past, which sometimes we can do it now, sometimes we can't. But it helps to have that historical information as well. So, again, thank you for giving us, all of the information so that we can make, no pun intended, an educational, decision on education. So, thank you.
Anybody else? If not, I don't want to forget Patsy. Do you want to do that now? Do you want to speak now?
No,
This is the budget. Was that what you wanted to speak?
it's the budget, oh, okay. So we've already gone through B.
No, we've gone through A, the budget adoption. B is the compensation plan. Yeah, you signed up to speak to budget. Is that not what you wanted?
So, good evening, Ms. Cronin, members of the board, Dr. Micah. My name is Patsy Esterline, 6800 Park 10 Boulevard, Suite 123 North, 78213, and I'm the president of Northeast AFT. While financial decisions are difficult under these conditions, we of course want pay to be increased 2% for teachers and support personnel, rather than a retention supplement. However, should you choose to go with the retention supplement, then the choice must be for 2%. This has been a particularly hard year for teachers and support personnel, but they have met the challenge. This coming school year will again be challenging and perhaps more of a health risk than before. We have spoken with teachers both in NEISD and in other districts who are either retiring early or resigning due to the stress caused by COVID-19. This includes not only the challenge of distance learning, but health concerns, child care concerns while teaching, and concerns for those family members they may be taken care of in their homes. Regarding health insurance, AFT agrees with the option wherein the district absorbs the increased cost. NEISD has a proud record of assuming the increases over the past, now 6 years. This is greatly appreciated by the employees. Also, at no time in the past has a strong health insurance program been important as it is now with the threat of COVID-19. Teachers and support personnel have many concerns about the reopening of schools. While the Texas Education Agency seems to believe it knows all the answers, in truth, no one knows what August will look like. Northeast AFT wants to work with the school board and the administration toward a successful school year. Your vote for the 2% increase in compensation and already voting for health insurance cost coverage of the extra cost will demonstrate a recognition of their work. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, did anybody have any other comments about this item? Did you have anything? Okay, seeing none, do I have a motion to adopt the 2020-2021 budgets for the general fund, debt service fund, and school nutrition services fund?
So moved.
I'm gonna, okay, Ms. Williams, and then a second, Mr. Hasso. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, the motion carries. Again, Brian and Susie, thank you so much, and your team, thank you for putting that up there, because it's nice to see, that there's some, and you too, Mr. Villarreal, I can't forget you, right? But yeah, I mean, it's just, the whole process has been amazing. I know it's been very difficult to gather the information to present to us, but I feel like that you've done a really great job, and we've been able to make a good decision. So thank you. Next item, B, possible action regarding proposed compensation plan for 2020-2021. Dr. Newman.
Thank you, President Grona, members of the board, Dr. Micah, executive staff, and guests. At this time, I'd like to ask Shiloh Witten, our Senior Director of Human Resources, to explain the compensation plan.
Good evening, Madam President, board members, Dr. Micah, executive staff, and guests. Tonight, the Human Resources Department brings to you the compensation plan for the 2021 school year. Included in the item, we have reference to the teacher incentive allotment. So before we go into the details of the compensation plan, we wanted to take a few moments just to brief you on the teacher incentive allotment. So the purpose of the teacher incentive allotment that has been outlined by the Texas Education Agency has been advertised as an opportunity for districts to have the option to locally develop a system that provides the benefits that we show here, with a particular emphasis on increasing teacher salaries and increasing student achievement at high-need and rural campuses. For Northeast, we don't have rural campuses, so our focus is on our high need. There are 3 designation levels that you see here that are based on teacher effectiveness. That is recognized, exemplary, and master, with teachers that hold a national board certification automatically designated as recognized. Additionally, that designation is valid for 5 years. An important requirement that we want to focus your attention to is that districts must adopt a compensation plan that uses at least 90% of those funds received on teacher compensation on the campus where a designated teacher is employed. So although the district does not have a local optional designation plan that we are presenting for the 2021 school year, we must present to you and address in the compensation plan how we will utilize funds to compensate teachers that are automatically deemed recognized by holding the national board certification, or for teachers that we employ that earn a designation from another school district. So we want to also just take a few moments to talk about the local option designation plan. TA has outlined the following requirements that a plan must include. So you must have teacher observation and student growth data, as well as particular emphasis on robust stakeholder engagement. 1 year of data that we capture, and the plan must be reviewed by TA, and the data must be reviewed by Texas Tech University. So back in the fall, the district received this information, and at that time, we were asked to, in January, submit whether we were interested in pursuing this opportunity. So we submitted our letter of interest at that time to participate in Cohort D. Now, that letter of interest was not a formal application, and we haven't committed to the plan at this time. It is just something that districts were outlining whether they were going to be pursuing the opportunity in the future. You'll see here on the slide is what TA has published as the timeline for Cohort D, where there is reference to the data capture year that's part of the required component would be in the 21-22 school year. So in order to prepare for that, the district is really in the very early stages of learning about the plan requirements. It's been over the past several months and more recent weeks that we've been participating in webinars and learning the information and discovering all that's required. Based on this timeline and the rollout of that information from TEA, we are going to begin the process and commitment to involve robust stakeholder involvement in building that plan. In addition to the involvement of these stakeholders, we are dedicated to developing a framework based on significant planning, adequate preparation time, and strong communication. Now, through this process, and even what TA and Texas Tech has shared, is that this plan could evolve over time. What we see now may change as the years go forward. So we will continue to learn and evolve our plan and involve our stakeholders in all of those discussions. As part of this communication, as we develop and consider a plan, we promise to ensure that the board is kept well informed and provide our stakeholders information as we continue to explore this opportunity. Before we go into the further components of the compensation plan, I just wanted to take a moment to pause to see if the board members had any questions regarding this information presented.
I do, but I'll let others go first. Can you explain to me or define to me what robust stakeholder engagement is or means or who?
So as far as the who, to answer that question first, that's still in process of discussion. There are various groups that TEA has outlined that can be involved, from campus to central office to other parties. So we're looking at how each area would be involved and to what extent they would be involved. So there is those plans that are described within the TA plan. As far as what that looks like, it could be anything from discussions, meetings, communication, presentations, surveys, etc.
So that really hasn't been defined yet?
No.
I mean, this is still kind of the very beginning
Very-
stages of
This is something that we simply submitted, look, we're going to take a look at it because many districts across the state didn't apply. They submitted a letter of interest, right? Let's look at this. You know, it'll be interesting to see, and it's what Shyla's talking about, is this could change because if, so when I met with the Bexar County delegation, and we're looking at the financial forecast, right, in the years to come, especially since the new biennium's coming up in January, one of the suggestions I gave is, rather than doing away with the teacher incentive allotment, why don't we just push pause? Why don't we just push pause and not do this? Because to scale, it's over $10 billion to the state coffers, right? Well, with all these indicators that it doesn't look good moving forward, don't do away with it, but just push pause. So will this even continue? We don't know. Could they push pause? Absolutely. They could say, we don't want to do away with it, but we couldn't fund it. Is that what they're going to do? I don't know. It'll be interesting to see, but it's something that we put in because, again, I think in the state, Shall, I want to say 800 maybe districts applied, or
Yes.
not, didn't apply, showed a letter of interest
Correct.
into this, right?
Mhm.
800 of 1,000. So 80% weighed in, right? So you want to take a look, but it's just kind of like, and Mr. Byer, I'll just use, it's kind of like the calendar. We just wouldn't go out and do it. We have to engage a lot of people through this process. You know, part of it, and you guys have heard me about being transparent with you all and our teachers, is that piece is we'd have to really identify the key pieces through this, or the people, work with them, and then it could evolve into yet another committee because we need some other people involved into it. Because it's a pretty heavy lift to do this. If you want to take a look at where they've been doing it, it's Dallas ISD. That's really where this originated from with that. And so, you know, we're still looking at it, and I'm sure Shiloh's going to get there, so if you are, I'm just going to steal your thunder. But look, we're participating in it. We're not even in it. That's what happens. Because we have nationally board certified teachers, you have to do it. You don't, even though we don't have a plan for it, we still have to participate. So it's kind of interesting, isn't it? That you actually can ask whether you want in, but you're kind of in it anyway, right? That's what it is. That's why we have to talk to you about it tonight, correct?
Yes, sir.
Did I steal your thunder?
That's okay.
Yeah, that was excellent, by the way. Great response.
Did anybody else have any questions about this? Okay.
I'm gonna let you finish, and then I'm gonna.
Okay.
Thank you. Well, that is the overview of one of the components of the teacher compensation plan. And just to reiterate, as Dr. Micah said, it's something that by default we have to bring to you today, even though we don't have that local optional. And even though they use the word optional, it's not in the sense that we have those teachers that have national board certification or could pursue it. And then those districts that are in part cohort A, B, or C, we're going to have plans that we come to each school year in order to make sure that we are compensating anyone we hire that has that designation. The other two pieces of the compensation plan, of course, one of them is going to be our salary schedules. So annually, every year, we do have to propose to you our salary ranges. As was presented in the board budget study sessions, there's no formal recommendation for any increases for teachers at this time, but we still want to identify the entry rate, which would be to maintain it at $53,000 for our entry-level teachers, and then continue to pay our maximum range, which is at 25 years, and that rate would be at $21,528. And then last year was the first year under House Bill 3 that we came to with a proposal about the differentiated pay. So we will continue to maintain that for this upcoming school year for those teachers that come to us with greater than 5 years. Additionally, we have our other salary ranges. So we just propose formally to maintain those salary ranges as they currently are for the 2019-2020 school year, to continue those in the upcoming year, as well as freeze the salary for all incumbents within those ranges. And then the other component is the retention supplement. Although Ms. Blackhorn mentioned that we are not formally adopting a resolution or anything at this time, the compensation plan still just identifies that should conditions and the budget allow for it, we want to have the opportunity to come back and provide a retention supplement up to 2%. But that will be presented to you later as a budget amendment if that is to go forward. And then again, we have reference to the teacher incentive allotment, where we just want to make sure the board understands that we will be compensating people in accordance with what's outlined under the Texas Education Code and TEA for those incumbents. So just formally, we propose the compensation plan, which will serve to freeze salaries at the 2019-2020 salary school year rates, and to determine the mechanism by which a retention supplement may be implemented, budget permitting, and the use of possible teacher incentive allotment funds received. This proposal has been discussed during the budget study sessions. So we formally just recommend that the Board of Trustees approve the compensation plan for the 2020-2021 school year.
Your question, Ms. Winkley.
And I just want to try to make sure I'm getting this correctly. So, Dr. Micah, we were either at TASB or SLI last summer. And there was a breakout session on teacher incentives, I believe, that you attended. And so will you kind of give us an idea? You gave us a little precursor into this is what districts are doing. It's a way to help keep good teachers. And I just so that people in our community can have a little more background on where the idea started. And then two, just to reiterate where the funding will be coming from for this program. Thank you.
Feel free to jump in where you need to.
Okay.
So the teacher incentive allotment came about through House Bill 3. It was one of the big pieces with House Bill 3. And so again, it's an allotment, so you have to apply for it. It is not just money given to you, but it is, should you create this plan through this process, and then it's approved, because the only place that can approve it is Texas Tech. If it gets through and approved, then the allotment is giving you that money above. Now, we've seen for our district, because each campus, it all depends on the need, all right? So, because we don't have rural schools. But, and Shyla helped me with this, I think one of the schools, a teacher that is deemed exemplary, is it?
Both recognized.
Okay. No, but I'm saying if we went to TIA allotment, right? And we had a teacher that is deemed exemplary, which, by the way, we don't really technically get to do it. Texas Tech kind of tells us how we do it, all right? So you have to filter, and you can't do this. What's the percentage? 5% or?
So are you referring to if you should apply, they're not.
So should you apply, should we begin the teacher incentive allotment, right? Say we go through this, and in 2023, we begin the teacher incentive allotment, because we're not in it, even though we're in it. We're in it just because we have 2 teachers. But if we went that route and we came up with it, not everybody can earn that high rate, all right? Because that's a piece of it. But then what it is a teacher could, and Dr. Newman, maybe it was you and I looking at it, a teacher on some of our campuses could earn an additional like $21,000 if they're rated at that high level. It's a lot of money. Am I correct in that number? Roughly?
Roughly, approximately that much for
I
that
mean,
level.
it is a lot of money to a teacher. Now, that all sounds great, but again, there's a process through that, because you could be a 5th grade teacher in the same school, and Mr. Leos is not deemed that and makes his teaching salary. I'm deemed at whatever the highest level is, exemplary, and I get $20,000 extra more than he does. Now, how does that come about is the process. That's in determining what characteristics are you going to use to deem that. Part of it is evaluation, part of it's student outcomes.
And I believe the calibration through Texas Tech.
Correct, and that calibrate, because you have to have your appraisers calibrate. It's a very detailed process. But again, the reason that we even put a letter of interest in place is because when you have 80% of the districts in the state showing interest, you know that one of my goals is about staying competitive in an educational marketplace. We're going to be really hard pressed if every district around us does it and we don't. How do you maintain competitive edge? If you can move over here and see what the state's doing is they're going to publish where these teachers are, where they're deemed at this rate. So now I can go out and shop teachers. See, it's creating a very competitive environment. And so we have to at least explore it, but we got to be very smart about it, about how we go about utilizing people's input through this, teachers, administrators, central office people, to really build a good plan. Because what you don't want to do is do something like this that people don't understand, because Mr. Leos and I are on the same team together, and I have no idea, and I'm doing, and that makes no sense. So it takes a lot of communication. When we did this, Cohort D, was that the last cohort?
That's the last advertised cohort presently.
Correct. So see, we're kind of getting slow to the game on this one, because again, what we don't want to do is rush a process. We don't want to rush a process. It's the same reason why we didn't go to a year-round school calendar or intersessional, because it was a rushed process and you're going to skip too many steps. We don't want to skip steps. We want to take our time and do it right, if we do it. Because again, we all kind of anticipate that as this gets worked out, it's going to change. They will evolve. Does that answer your question?
It does, thank you.
Okay.
I hope that answers
Dr. Newman, is there anything else that you want to add to that, or Shyla?
With the teacher incentive allotment, philosophically, if a teacher does want to earn more, they would have to leave the classroom. And I do applaud the efforts to try to keep very talented teachers in the classroom.
And that's a big piece of what Commissioner Morath is doing is, if you wanted to make more money as a teacher, well, the natural thing is you go into administration. And that's where you can start to work and get more money. What they're trying to do is pay teachers more money to stay in the classroom, because teachers make you guys know this, teachers make the greatest impact on student outcomes. It's just that clear. And so they're trying to keep the very best in the classroom with this piece. But it's not just simply giving money. It's all on a scale, on where you fall and how you get there. And the devil is truly in those details.
Details, yeah.
So why Texas Tech? I'm surprised, Ms. Grona, that you haven't asked.
We were not
why.
informed the selection. I think they just had a lot of the data that they were analyzing, and so from what our understanding is, they had a lot of the information in order to review the plans.
Because I'm concerned too about the impact of COVID on them being able to come back to
Right. Yeah,
whole situation
and
could-
Ms. Huey, look, even though we're not in the TIA, they had requested our appraisal data, correct?
Correct. So part of what TEA will be doing that they've shared with us is they're going to be using that data to compare the plans that are submitted by each district against each other for the validity of your plan. So they are looking at that calibration and seeing that information to see, again, the validity of whatever plan we submit to identify our designated teachers. But we do happen to be amongst the majority of the districts that have selected Cohort D. So in looking at the list, they did advertise each district and what cohort they chose, and majority of districts are in the same position that we are looking at and taking things slower, because I think, as I previously said, it was last week where we were starting to get some of that detail. And even then, the application for Cohort A was just published. Cohort B and A. Yeah, there's information that they're seeing, and they've already informed us what is submitted today will not be probably what you see in future applications.
Ms. Williams?
So do we not have a, what I'm calling a potential financial impact?
Because those funds are allocated, There's no direct impact to the budget. Those funds actually would not be identified and allotted to the district until at the earliest the spring. And if there were upfront costs, we then would get those funds reimbursed to us at a later time. But I don't know if Ms. Blackhorn wants to speak more directly about the budget.
So this is not, excuse me, so this would potentially be coming out of some other source, because under budgetary consideration, it says budget permitting. So it gives the impression that it could come out of.
For the teacher incentive allotment, however many number of teachers we have that qualify through the national board certification, the state's going to give us the money that gets passed through to the teachers. So it's an increase in revenue for the incentive allotment. And then it'll be an increase in expense too, but
It's a
they'll
wash.
give us the money to pay for it.
It's a wash, right?
Yes.
Okay, I guess it's just confusing when the sentence here says budget permitting.
And I think that has to do more with the.
The whole plan.
Retention,
supplement.
yes.
Correct.
And not necessarily about the TIA that we're
Correct.
discussing right now. So there's a couple of
And-
things going on in this.
Yeah, what are you
presentation.
reading?
And Ms. Witten, how many national board certified teachers do we have right now?
We have 2.
Right, I heard that.
Yeah.
And to confirm, yes, that statement is related to the retention supplement, where budget permitting, we would propose a supplement for our employees.
And we're not proposing that right now. We're not discussing that right now, right?
It'll come later in the fall, but still within the compensation plan, we want to make you aware that we will at least consider it if the budget permits.
So again, the teacher incentive allotment, this whole discussion is basically just an FYI.
Correct.
We're not taking any action on this.
You just have to be aware of this
Correct.
because it is part of the compensation, Mr. Byer. So we have to let you know that it's going on. But it's not, I mean, it's happening. It's something that we have to do.
Sure.
But again, to your point, Ms. Williams, this is money an allotment is giving us to pay for it. So it's still revenue, but then it comes right out the door. We're just a vessel for this money. Would that be a good way to say it?
Like a
Ms.
pass-through.
Blackwell? Yeah, we're a vessel. We're just gonna grab it, then to distribute it to those 2 teachers. But the piece to the component is that in September, which is when we'll know, hopefully, I mean, look, we were supposed to learn about ADA and distance learning last Tuesday, and then it was gonna be Thursday, now it's supposed to be tomorrow, but we'll see because if anything we all have learned through COVID is this stuff can change in seconds or in hours. And so we're trying to let some things sort itself out. And then in September, we can come back to you. What you're looking at is that up to a 2% retention in the fall should distance learning be funded the way that we want, should, if you recall, should students return the way, because again, the assumption that people are making is that distance learning is going to be funded the exact same way it was this spring. You know, there was zero accountability to distance learning. ADA, they just kind of took our average over the last 3 years and said, okay, we're going to fund you at this. I just don't anticipate that's going to continue. They're going to have to somehow have us track attendance. And what that looks like, and again, what I expressed to the Bexar County delegation and to several others is, we designed our distance learning around the fact that we knew not all kids had technology. So in many options, we put those access points in our parking lots so students could pull in, download it, because let's face it, a parking lot is not the best learning environment, right? But what we did is allowed them to download it and then go home and work, all right? Can you imagine if they say, well, the only way we're going to fund distance learning is that we can see that child for 7 hours a day on a screen? Just imagine that. How is that going to work? And is that even a great, we don't know. See, those are the things that, because think about it, right now we get money based on ADA through the 75,600 minutes that we are mandated for school. How do you do that in a distance learning environment? See, those are the things we simply don't know. Now, we hope to learn them tomorrow. And what does that look like? Because as we shared, I believe earlier, about 80% of our community is saying, or our parents say, yeah, they'll come back, but 20% are not real sure. They'd like a distance learning option. And so how do those things continue on, right? I mean, back a while ago, before May 20th, we ordered more Chromebooks, kind of preparing for this. We've still yet to not see a single sign of those Chromebooks because there's such a back order on these things. And, just imagine the entire United States went out needing this stuff. It's not just like, I can tell you on some of my calls, things like hand sanitizer can't even be found in certain regions of our state. Mr. Clary and those guys were real smart and started ordering things and reaching out to our suppliers very early and positioned us in a great place. When it came time to look at electrostatic cleaning backpack things, and we looked at, and Mr. Clary said, Dr. Micah, I just don't know, this. I said, how many are you going to order? Well, we're going to order this. I said, why are we ordering more? He goes, well, the budget. And I said, I think we're going to get our money back. Mr. Villarreal and I sat and said, yeah, we need to order them now. So now we've got a bunch of them, which exponentially increases our capacity to deal with an outbreak. We can clean those schools now so much faster because what we learned was, yeah, we had some, but if this in one campus, and now if you took it at 3, it's going to take us a long time. Now we have the capacity to do it like quickly, like so quickly to go in and do it. And see, it's not just COVID. Those things can be used for the flu. They can be used for so many other things moving forward. So it was that type of thinking that was going on very early on and trying to get in position for all of these things. Now, bird walking, but do you see where I'm going? It's this type of stuff because, let's face it, if we have a COVID outbreak, and okay, so we go into a hybrid. So I was in person today, now I'm virtual tomorrow. How am I going to track 88? Because remember, they just washed it clean, said don't worry about 88, don't track attendance whatsoever. And if you'll recall, I've told you guys several times this, districts around us at first reported a 75% contact rate with kids. We were 96 to 98. So, but that 75% looked all over the state. There were very few, and kudos to our campuses, to our counselors, to our teachers, to our APs, to our principals, to our family specialists, and all those people that started reaching out very early. But see, when you hear that over and over, I'm sure there's going to have to be a lot more accountability coming with it, and we just don't know what it is. And so you want to be careful about spending money that you think might be there when we certainly have no guarantee that it will be there. So again, our approach to this, if you'll recall, I think I said it night 1, Chairman Huberty said, you need to be optimistic in your thinking, which is what we're doing, but conservative or cautious in our approach. And that's what we're doing. That's the recommendation tonight. So we want to be optimistic and think that we can do something for our people in the fall, but we've got to be cautious in what we do and not overspend and create a fiscal cliff. Make sense? Mm-hmm. That was a way more detailed answer, wasn't it? But you got it all.
You used up all your time for tonight. You can't speak anymore. I'm just kidding. Does anybody have any questions?
Yeah, I have one. I just want to clarify something before we finalize this. So on the salary schedule, we talk about maintaining base salary for beginning teachers, or the $53,000 base pay, the $61,000 base pay. And there's the other item about the additional base pay differential that House Bill 3 allowed. And I know we used that last year, correct?
Yes,
and so
sir.
We're proposing that again?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
It's still a requirement under House Bill 3, so we're maintaining that differentiation.
Okay.
Right. And so Mr. Leos, that was 600 for teachers with 5 to
15.
6 to
Or 6
15.
15, and then 16 above was 1,200.
Yes, sir.
Okay. I just want to make sure that was still happening as is.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay. Does anybody have anything else? No? Okay. Again, thank y'all for doing all this work, because I get emotional when I talk about it, because my mom was a teacher. I come from a teacher family. We want to do what we can for them, but we have to be fiscally responsible. So I think this is the best option, because in September is the tax rate, right? So we could potentially get that fifth penny, right? So we're hopeful for September. And September is my birthday, so maybe we could just do it on. So anyway, okay. Thank y'all. Let's, do I have a motion to approve the compensation plan for the 2020-2021 school year?
So moved.
Thank you, Mrs. Winkley. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Laos. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, the motion carries. Thank you all again very much.
Thank you.
Item 3, new business for possible board action. A, business services. 1, possible action regarding final budget amendment. Mr. Villarreal.
Yes, Madam President, members of the board, Dr. Mike, executive staff, and guests. Tonight, we bring you the final budget amendment. Every year at this time, we bring you our last alignment of our financials. There's some detail that we also attached. If there's any detailed questions you might want to ask, I'm here to answer, or Mr. Moy.
Does anyone have any questions? We always ask them of Mr. Moy. Maybe we should ask them of Mr. Villarreal tonight. Bring it on, man, right?
Here, hold on. Oh, and happy 40th birthday, Ms. Grona.
Thank you. Okay. No questions about this? Seeing none, do I have a motion to approve the final budget amendment?
So moved.
Thank you, Mr. Hasso. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Byer. All those in favor say aye.
Aye. Aye.
Opposed, the motion carries. Item 2, possible action regarding fund balance commitments. Mr. Villarreal.
Yes, Madam President. It's also some clerical work that every year we have to bring to you, fund balance commitments for the coming year, so we're asking for approval.
Anybody have any questions about that? Okay. Do I have a motion to approve the resolution committing certain fund balances as of June 30, 2020?
So moved.
Thank you, Mrs. Winkley. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mrs. Williams. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the motion carries. Item B, board policy. 1, possible action regarding board policy FDA local intra-district transfers, second and final reading. Mr. Jimenez.
Thank you, President Grona, members of the board, Dr. Micah, executive staff, and guests. During the June 8th board meeting, we discussed FDA local pertaining to intra-district transfers, specifically continued enrollment. The proposed update would include a contingency that would allow our rising 5th and 8th graders the opportunity to complete their last year at the school that they were enrolled in. And essentially, they would have the same opportunity that rising seniors currently have. And so we are requesting that the Board of Trustees approve the second reading of the policy edition.
Any questions about the second reading? Seeing none, do I have a motion to approve second reading of FDA local, is it inter-district or intra? Intra-district transfers as presented.
So moved. So moved. Sorry.
I'm sorry, I cannot recognize voices mumbled through the mask. Thank you, Mr. Hasso. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mrs. Winkley. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, the motion carries. Okay, the board, right, will now adjourn into executive session pursuant to the following sections of the Texas Open Meetings Act. Texas Government Code, Section 551.071, private consultation with the board's attorney, 551.072, discussing purchase, exchange, lease, or value of real property, 551.074, to discuss personnel or to hear complaints against personnel, and the time is 6:29. Thank you all for being here tonight. Appreciate it. Great job. Yes. The board will now reconvene into open session, and the time is 7:30. Item 6, matters from executive session. A, personnel including but not limited to administrative appointments pursuant to Government Code Section 551.074. 1, possible action regarding routine personnel, including but not limited to administrative appointments. No action. 2, Executive Director of Adult and Community Ed. Do I have a motion to approve as discussed in executive session?
So moved.
Oh, go ahead, Terry.
Thank you, Ms. Williams. Do I have a second?
Second.
Ms. Winkley? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the motion carries. Item 3, introductions. Dr. Micah?
Thank you, Madam President. It's my pleasure to announce that the new Executive Director for Adult and Community Education is Dr. Caprico Wells.
Item B, possible action regarding purchase, exchange, lease, or value of real property pursuant to Government Code Section 551.02. No action. C, possible action regarding consultation with board's attorney pursuant to Government Code Section 551.071. 1, pending and or possible litigation. No action. Item 7, adjournment, and the time is 7:32. Thank you all for being here.